The medical bay was too quiet. Dr. Hana Kwan had delivered 43 babies in her career, and they were never this quiet. She looked down at the infant in her hands, and her breath caught in her throat. The baby boy wasn't crying. He was watching her. His eyes were wrong. They weren't the cloudy blue of newborns, or even the brown eyes his parents probably expected. They were something else entirely. The pupils were vertical slits, like a cat's eyes, but larger and more pronounced. The irises shifted colors as she watched, flowing from deep gold to burning crimson to rich violet. And they glowed, not brightly, but enough that she could see the light even in the well-lit medical bay. "Doctor." Nurse Minji stood beside her, frozen. "What is that?" Hana's hands shook as she held the baby. The child was warm, far warmer than any newborn should be. Her medical scanner had shorted out the moment the baby emerged, sparks flying from the device. 3 other monitors around the room had died in the same instant, their screens going black with a sharp cracking sound. "I don't know," Hana whispered. The baby blinked slowly, those strange eyes focusing on her face. There was intelligence there, awareness that shouldn't exist in a child only seconds old. It was as if something ancient looked out through those infant eyes, studying her with calm curiosity. On the birthing bed, Yuna Park lay exhausted, her dark hair plastered to her forehead with sweat. "Is my baby okay?" she asked, her voice weak. "Why isn't he crying?" Hana made herself smile. "He's perfect, just very calm." She wrapped the baby in a white blanket, making sure to cover his face partially, hiding those impossible eyes. "Let me just run a few quick checks." Outside in the waiting area, Jin Lee paced back and forth. He was a tall man with nervous hands, an engineer who worked on the colony ship's fusion drives. This was his first child. Hana could see him through the window, checking his watch every few seconds. The baby made a soft sound, not quite a cry. When Hana looked down, she saw smoke rising from the blanket, where the baby's skin touched it. The fabric was scorching, turning brown at the edges. The child's body temperature was rising. "Minji, get me the thermal unit, now." Before the nurse could move, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. A mechanical voice announced, "Unscheduled docking procedure detected. All personnel to standby positions." Hana's blood went cold. Unscheduled docking didn't happen. The colony ship times, Eternal Dawn times, was 3 weeks away from the nearest station. They were orbiting Arcturus Prime, a neutral moon, conducting standard surveys. "No one should be here," the intercom crackled. "Dr. Kwan, this is Captain Sung. We have a Galactic Council inspection team boarding the ship. They say it's routine, but they gave us no warning. They're heading to your section right now." The captain's voice carried an edge of suspicion that Hana shared. The Galactic Council didn't do surprise inspections. In 20 years of human space travel, it had never happened once. Hana looked at the baby in her arms. Those dragon eyes watched her, unblinking. A terrible certainty settled over her. They were here for him. Somehow, they already knew. "Minji, help me." Hana moved quickly, placing the baby in a sealed incubation unit. The special medical pod had opaque walls and its own monitoring systems. She dimmed the lights in the medical bay and pulled up false readings on her main computer. "If anyone asks, the baby has respiratory issues and needs isolation. Don't let anyone open that unit. B. 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 Doctor, what's going on? I don't know yet, but something is very wrong." The medical bay doors slid open. 3 figures entered, and they were not human. The leader was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Her species, the Vaexians, were known for their diplomatic skills. She wore the formal robes of a council ambassador, marked with silver symbols of high authority. Her black eyes swept the room with cold efficiency. "I am Ambassador Thelnora," she said, Her voice was melodious but carried no warmth. "We received an anomalous energy reading from this vessel. I must inspect your medical facilities." Hana stepped forward, blocking the path to the incubation unit. "Ambassador, we just completed a difficult birth. The child needs complete isolation for the next few hours. Any contamination could be fatal." Thelnora's eyes narrowed. Two more aliens stood behind her, both from species Hana didn't recognize. They wore armor and carried weapons. This was no routine inspection. "What kind of difficulty?" the ambassador asked. "Respiratory distress. Nothing unusual. But the infant is fragile right now." Hana kept her voice steady, professional. Behind her, she heard the soft hum of the incubation unit. She prayed the baby would stay quiet. Thelnora moved forward. For a moment, Hana thought she would push past, open the unit, and see what lay inside. But then Yuna cried out from the birthing bed, a sound of pain and exhaustion. It was perfectly timed. Whether by accident or instinct, the ambassador paused. Even cold council diplomats hesitated to disturb a mother in distress. "Very well," Thelnora said slowly. "But I will need complete medical scans of everyone aboard this ship within the next 6 hours. No exceptions." "Of course," Hana lied. The inspection team left, but Hana knew this wasn't over. She waited until the doors sealed, then rushed to the incubation unit. Through the small viewing port, she could see the baby lying peacefully. His eyes were closed now, but even through his eyelids, she could see the faint glow. Jin burst into the room. "Hana, what's happening?" "They wouldn't let me see Yuna. They're searching the entire ship." Hana looked at him, then at Yuna, who had pushed herself up on the bed despite her exhaustion. These two people had just become parents. They deserved to hold their child, to celebrate this moment. Instead, they were in danger they couldn't possibly understand yet. "Your son is special," Hana said quietly. "And I think the Galactic Council has been waiting for him to be born. Waiting and dreading it." She opened the incubation unit. Jin gasped when he saw his son's eyes. Yuna began to cry, but not from fear. She reached out with trembling hands, and Hana placed the baby in her arms. The child looked up at his mother, those dragon eyes full of ancient wisdom and new innocence both. He made a cooing sound, soft and sweet. Perfectly normal, except for the small wisps of steam that rose from Yuna's arms, where he touched her skin. "What do we do?" Jin asked. Hana moved to her computer and began downloading every file she could access. Medical records, council communications, classified databases. If they wanted to survive what was coming, they needed information. "We prepare," she said. "Because in about 48 hours, I think the council is going to try to kill your son, and we're going to have to run faster than we've ever run before." Outside the medical bay, the Time's eternal dawn times drifted in orbit around the silent moon. The stars burned cold and distant, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, ships were already moving, carrying orders that would change everything. The baby slept in his mother's arms, dragon eyes hidden behind closed lids, while humanity's future hung in the balance. 3 days passed, and the baby had a name. Day. It meant greatness in Korean, and Jin chose it, without knowing how true it would become. Dr. Hana Kwan hadn't slept more than 2 hours at a time since the birth. She kept Day in the isolated medical section, running tests while Yuna and Jin stayed close. The results terrified her. Day's DNA was human, completely human. But buried in the sequences were sections she had never seen before. They looked like code, like instructions written by someone who understood genetic engineering far beyond human capability. These sections had been there all along, hidden in what scientists called junk DNA. Except they weren't junk at all. They were a program, and Day's birth had activated it. "His cellular structure is changing," Hana explained to the parents. They sat in the small medical office, exhausted and frightened. Every hour, I see new developments. His body temperature has stabilized at 41 degrees Celsius. That should kill him. But he's perfectly healthy. His bone density is increasing. His neural pathways are forming connections that shouldn't be possible. But why? Yuna held Day against her chest, rocking him gently. The baby's eyes were open, watching everything. They had settled into a steady gold color today, bright as polished coins. Why is this happening to our son? Hana pulled up an encrypted file on her screen. Because I found something in the Council's database. Jin helped me hack their systems. She glanced at the engineer, who nodded grimly. They've been watching humanity for a very long time, watching and waiting for this. The file showed images of ancient texts, star maps, and genetic sequences. Hana had spent 2 days trying to understand it all. What she discovered kept her awake at night. 200,000 years ago, something changed in human evolution. We went from simple tools to complex thinking almost overnight. Scientists on Earth always wondered why. Now I know. She pointed to a section of text, translated from an alien language. We were changed. Modified. Someone visited Earth and altered our ancestors' DNA. Jin leaned forward. A species called the Vryn dynasty. They existed 12 million years ago. According to these records, they were the most powerful civilization the galaxy has ever known. They could manipulate reality itself, bend space and time, create and destroy with their thoughts alone. Hana's hands shook as she continued. And then, they vanished. The Galactic Council has been searching for answers ever since. And they're terrified that the Vryn might return. What does that have to do with Day? Yuna's voice was sharp with mother's fear. Hana pulled up another file. This one made her stomach turn. The Council believes humans are the Vryn's legacy. They think we were created to become like them. And Day is the first sign that the transformation is beginning. The room fell silent except for Day's quiet breathing. He reached up with tiny fingers, touching his mother's face. Where his hand brushed her cheek, her skin glowed briefly with golden light. Yuna gasped but didn't pull away. There's more, Jin said quietly. He had found something in the Council files that Hana had missed. Show them the directive. Show them the directive. Hana didn't want to, but they deserved to know. She pulled up a classified Council order, dated 2 days ago. The header read, Order 77 Omega. Yuna read it slowly, her face going pale. The order was clear. Any human showing signs of transcendence must be eliminated immediately. The colony ship times, Eternal Dawn times, was to be quarantined. If the crew resisted, the ship would be destroyed with all hands aboard. No evidence of the transcendent human could survive. They're going to kill us, Yuna whispered. They're going to kill all of us. Because of our baby. When? Jin's voice was steady, but his hands clenched into fists. A Council enforcement fleet is coming. They'll arrive in less than 48 hours. Hana closed the files. We have 2 choices. Surrender Day to them, or run. We're not giving them our son, Yuna said immediately. Jin nodded agreement, moving to stand beside his wife. Hana had expected this answer. She had already made her choice too. Then we need to talk to Captain Sung. They found the captain on the bridge, staring at the long-range scanners. Tae-sung was a veteran of the first colony missions, a man who had seen enough of the galaxy to know when something was deeply wrong. His gray hair and lined face spoke of hard experience. I know about the baby, he said before they could speak. I've been monitoring Council communications. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They want that child dead. Can we run? Jin asked. Captain Sung pulled up a star map. The Council has ships at every major route between here and human space. If we try to reach Earth or any colony, they'll intercept us within hours. He zoomed in on a region of space marked in red. There's only one place they won't follow. The Vryn Remnant Zone, Hana breathed. It's suicide. the captain said bluntly. That region is filled with dead technology, from a civilization that makes the Council look like children playing with toys. Ships that enter don't always come out. Space itself is unstable there. Jin looked at Day in Yuna's arms. The baby was watching the star map, with those knowing eyes, as if he understood every word. But the Council won't go there? They're terrified of it. Ancient Vrin weapons still active, reality anomalies, and things they don't even have names for. The Council quarantined that entire sector 10 million years ago. Captain Sung turned to face them fully. If we go there, we're on our own. No rescue, no support. Just us and whatever we find in the dark. Then we go, Yuna said firmly. Captain Sung studied her for a long moment, then nodded. I'll inform the crew. But you should know, not everyone will agree with this. Some will want to surrender the child, to save themselves. Then give them the choice, Henna said. Anyone who wants to leave can take the shuttles before we jump. Over the next 24 hours, the Time's eternal dawn times prepared for the impossible. Captain Sung addressed the crew, explaining the situation. The baby with dragon eyes. The Council's order to kill them all. The choice between surrender and flight. 60 people chose to leave in the shuttles. They were afraid, and Hana couldn't blame them. That left 240 crew members who decided to stay. Some stayed because they believed in Day's potential. Some stayed because they refused to let the Council dictate humanity's future. And some stayed simply because they had nowhere else to go. In the medical bay, Hana ran one final test on Day. The baby's eyes had changed again, shifting to a deep violet that seemed to contain tiny stars. When she scanned him, her equipment showed something impossible. Day wasn't just changing. He was connected to something vast, something beyond normal space. Energy flowed through him from elsewhere, from other dimensions or other realities. He was becoming a bridge between worlds. We're ready, Captain Sung's voice came over the intercom. Jump engines charged. Council fleet has been detected at the edge of the system. They're 6 hours out. Hana picked up Day, holding him carefully. Then, let's go. On the bridge, the crew worked with fierce determination. Jin had helped boost the engines beyond their normal limits. The jump drive hummed with barely contained power. Coordinates set for the remnant zone. The navigator called out. All hands, prepare for jump, Captain Sung ordered. But before they could activate the drive, alarms shrieked. The Council fleet had arrived early, dropping out of faster-than-light travel right on top of them. They're powering weapons, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple ships, heavy cruisers. We can't fight them. Day began to cry for the first time in his young life. And as he cried, the lights on the Time's eternal dawn times flared brilliant gold. The first weapon blast should have destroyed them. The Council cruiser's plasma cannon fired at point-blank range. A beam of superheated energy that could cut through a battleship's armor like paper. Everyone on the bridge of the Time's eternal dawn times knew they were dead. Then Day screamed, and the world changed. The baby's eyes blazed with light so bright that Yuna had to shield her face. Golden energy burst from Day's small body, flowing through the ship like living fire. The plasma beam hit their shields and simply stopped, frozen in space as if time itself had paused. What the? Captain Sung stared at his screens. Every system on the ship was going crazy. Power readings were off the charts. The engines were somehow producing 3 times their maximum output. The shields, which should have failed under that assault, were regenerating faster than they could be damaged. Hana watched in amazement as Day's energy flowed through the ship's systems. It was as if the baby was connected to the Times, eternal dawn, Times itself, understanding it, improving it, making it more than it was designed to be. Captain, the weapons systems are firing on their own, the tactical officer reported, her voice shaking. But the targeting is perfect. Every shot is hitting their weak points. The Council ships tried to surround them, but the Time's eternal dawn times moved with impossible grace. Jin recognized what was happening from his position at the engineering station. "The ship is alive," he whispered. "Day is making it alive. Day is making it alive." "Jump now," Captain Sung ordered. While they're confused, the jump drive engaged, and the Time's eternal dawn times tore a hole in space. Behind them, the Council fleet tried to follow, but their ships couldn't match the speed. Day's presence had pushed their colony ship beyond normal physics. When they dropped back into normal space, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had escaped the impossible. Prom. Hana looked down at Day in her arms. The baby had stopped crying. His eyes were back to their usual shifting gold and violet, peaceful and calm. He yawned, like any normal infant, tiny and fragile. But everyone who had witnessed what just happened knew the truth. This child was power itself. "Where are we?" Yuna asked quietly. The navigator checked his instruments, then went very pale. "We're at the edge of the remnant zone. The coordinates are exact. But," he turned to face the captain, "Sir, there's a structure directly ahead. It's massive, on the main screen." They saw it. A city floating in space, vast beyond comprehension. It was larger than Earth's moon, a construct of towers and domes and bridges that seemed to flow like frozen music. The architecture was nothing like human or council design. It was organic and geometric at once, beautiful and terrifying. "That's Vrin," Hana breathed. "We found them. Or what's left of them." The structure had been dead for millions of years. No lights, no power signatures, nothing but cold metal and empty spaces. The crew of the Time's eternal dawn times approached slowly, carefully, expecting nothing. But when they came within 1,000 kilometers, something happened. Lights began to flicker across the ancient city. Dim, at first, then brighter. Symbols appeared on the surface, glowing patterns that hurt to look at directly. "It's responding to us," Captain Sung said. Day was awake in Yuna's arms, staring at the ancient structure with those impossible eyes. He reached out with one tiny hand, fingers grasping at nothing, and the Vrin city responded to that gesture like it was waiting for this exact moment. A beam of light shot out from the structure, bathing the Time's eternal dawn times in soft illumination. The crew tensed, but nothing happened. The light was warm, welcoming, an invitation. "There's a docking port opening," the navigator reported. "They want us to come inside." Captain Sung looked at Hana. "Your call, Doctor. You know more about this than anyone." Hana held Day close, feeling his warmth, the steady beat of his heart. This baby had led them here. Across light years, and through danger. She had to trust that there was a reason. "We dock," she said. The Time's eternal dawn times settled into the port with surprising ease, as if the ancient systems knew exactly what a human ship needed. Airlocks connected automatically. Atmosphere flooded the boarding tunnels, perfectly balanced for human life. A team went through first. Captain Sung, Dr. Hana, Jin, Yuna with Day, and 6 security officers. They stepped into a corridor that had been silent for 12 million years, and their footsteps echoed like thunder. The walls were covered in those strange symbols, flowing patterns that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. Yuna stopped suddenly, staring at a section of wall. "I can read it," she whispered. Everyone turned to look at her. Jin put a hand on her arm. "What?" "The symbols. I don't know how, but I understand them." Yuna's eyes were wide with shock. She pointed to a particular pattern. "This one means archive. And this one means knowledge. And this one," she touched her son's head gently, "this one means awakening." "How is that possible?" one of the security officers asked. Hana checked her medical scanner, running it over Yuna. The readings made her heart race. "You're changing too. The same genetic sequences that activated in Day are starting to appear in you. Being close to him, carrying him for 9 months, it's accelerated your own transformation." Am I in danger? Yuna asked. I don't think so. But you're becoming something more than human. Like your son. They moved deeper into the structure, following the lights that seemed to guide them. Eventually, they reached a massive chamber. The room was circular, hundreds of meters wide, with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness. In the center stood a pillar of crystal, glowing with soft light. When Yuna approached with day, the pillar flared bright. Images appeared in the air around them. Holographic projections, showing history. They saw the Vryn in their prime, beings of light and energy who had transcended physical form. They saw the galaxy as it was 12 million years ago, before the Council, before most species had even evolved. And they saw Earth. Primitive, covered in forests and early humans. The Vryn had visited that world and done something to the humans living there. They had planted seeds of change, genetic programs that would activate when humanity was ready. They made us, Jin said, watching the images. We're their children. We're their children. The hologram shifted, showing more. The Vryn had known they were leaving this dimension, ascending to a higher plane of existence. But they didn't want to leave the galaxy empty of transcendent life, so they created a successor species. Humans. A species designed to eventually follow the same path. To become what the Vryn had become. But why did it take so long? Captain Sung asked. 200,000 years? More images appeared, answering his question. The transformation couldn't be forced. It had to happen naturally. When humanity had spread far enough, learned enough, was ready to handle the power without destroying itself. The genetic program was designed to wait for the right moment. Day's birth was that moment. The Galactic Council knows all this, Hana realized. They've studied these ruins for millions of years. They know what humans are meant to become, and they're terrified. The hologram showed one final image. The future. Not just one possible future, but many branching paths. In some, humanity became monsters, using their power to conquer and destroy. In others, they became guardians and teachers, helping other species evolve peacefully. The future wasn't written yet. The choice was still theirs to make. Day began to glow softly in his mother's arms. The crystal pillar responded, and suddenly everyone in the room felt it. Knowledge flowing into their minds. Understanding of things they had never learned. The basics of dimensional physics, the principles of reality manipulation, the ethics of transcendent power. It was the Vryn archive, sharing itself with them, teaching them. But the teaching was interrupted by alarms from the Time's eternal dawn asterisk. The ship's computer screamed warnings through their communication devices. Council fleet detected, the automated voice announced. Multiple capital ships. They've followed us into the remnant zone. Captain Sung's face went hard. How many? 43 ships, including 5 dreadnoughts. The response came from the crew member they'd left, monitoring the ship. Captain, they're powering up weapons. They're not here to negotiate. Ambassador Thel Nora's voice came over the communication channel, cold and final. Colony ship times. Eternal dawn asterisk. This is your last chance. Surrender the transcendent child, and the rest of you may survive. Refuse, and we will destroy you and sterilize every human colony in the galaxy. You have 1 hour to comply. The crew looked at Day, sleeping peacefully in his mother's arms. The baby who could save humanity, or doom it. The child, who the Galactic Council feared so much they were willing to commit genocide. Captain Sung straightened his shoulders. Send a response. Tell them no. In the ancient Vryn chamber, the lights grew brighter. The Council fleet came like a hammer. 43 warships, some of them older than human civilization, filled with weapons designed to crack planets. They formed a sphere around the ancient Vryn structure, blocking every escape route. Inside the Time's eternal dawn asterisk, Captain Sung watched the tactical display with grim understanding. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped. His ship, even with Day's power flowing through it, couldn't fight that many enemies. "They're charging weapons," the tactical officer reported. "Multiple targeting locks on the structure. They're going to destroy the entire Vryn city to get to us." Hana stood in the Vryn archive chamber, holding Day. The baby was awake, watching the crystal pillar with calm attention. Around them, holographic images continued to flow, showing more history, more knowledge. Yuna and Jin stood close, their hands linked together. "They'll kill millions of their own people doing this," Yuna said quietly. "The council species on those ships, they'll die too." "They don't care," Hana replied. "They're that afraid of what we might become." The Vryn archive responded to their fear, showing them more images. The council had faced transcendent threats before, many times in their 10-million-year history, species that gained too much power and used it to dominate others. The council's entire purpose was to prevent any one race from becoming too strong. They had destroyed civilizations before when they had to, but humans were different. The images showed the truth that the council tried to hide. Humanity wasn't the first species the Vryn had modified. There had been others. 4 different races across the galaxy, all given the same genetic gift. All of them had been discovered by the council. All of them had been eliminated before their transformation could complete. Humans were the last chance. The final test. "We have to show them," Yuna said suddenly. She looked at the crystal pillar, then at her son. "We have to make them understand that we're not going to become the next threat." "How?" Jin asked. "They won't listen. They're beyond talking." But Yuna was changing. Hana could see it happening faster now. The woman's eyes had started to show flecks of gold around the edges. Her skin glowed faintly when Day touched her. The transformation that had taken weeks to begin in the baby was happening in hours for the mother. "I can feel them," Yuna whispered. "The people on those ships. Their fear, their anger, their certainty that they're doing the right thing. Day showed me how. He's connected to so much more than we realized." She held her son close, and Day's eyes flared bright. Golden light surrounded both of them, mother and child linked in a way that went beyond normal biology. They were becoming something new, together. Captain Sung's voice crackled over the intercom. "Dr. Kwan. They're firing. Multiple dreadnoughts launching planet-killer missiles. Impact in 90 seconds. Hana watched as Yuna closed her eyes, her face peaceful despite the danger. The light around her and Day grew brighter, filling the chamber. Jin reached out to touch his wife's shoulder, and the light flowed into him too. He gasped as understanding hit him, as he felt what they felt. "Oh," Jin breathed. The missiles struck the Vryn structure, massive explosions that would have destroyed a city. But the ancient shields activated. Powered by something beyond normal energy, the structure held, glowing with the same golden light that surrounded Day. On the bridge of the Time's Eternal Dawn asterisk, Captain Sung watched in amazement as the Vryn city came fully alive. Weapon systems that had been dormant for 12 million years began to power up. Defensive grids stretched across space. The entire structure transformed from a dead relic into a living fortress. "They're defending us," the tactical officer said in awe. But Day wasn't using the weapons. Instead, the baby did something far more powerful. Through the connection with his mother, through the link to the Vryn technology, Day reached out across space and touched the minds of everyone in the Council fleet. Ambassador Thelnora stood on the bridge of her flagship, ready to give the order for another attack. She was standing in a vast space filled with light. Around her, she saw her crew, saw the captains of all 43 ships in the fleet, thousands of council soldiers and officers, all pulled into this shared vision at once, and before them stood images, not of war and conquest, but of possibility. They saw human children across the galaxy, in colonies, on 100 worlds, saw their eyes beginning to change. just like days. The transformation was spreading, faster than anyone expected. Millions of humans were awakening to their transcendent nature. But what they did with that power varied in each vision. In some futures, the newly awakened humans lashed out in fear and anger, becoming exactly the threat the Council feared. In those timelines, the galaxy burned. Civilizations fell. The Council's worst nightmares came true. But in other futures, humans chose a different path. They learned to control their gifts, to use their power with wisdom. They became teachers and healers, helping other species evolve safely. They protected the younger civilizations from threats the Council couldn't handle. They became guardians instead of conquerors. And in the best futures, humans shared their transformation. They showed other species how to transcend safely, how to reach the next level of existence without losing themselves. The galaxy entered a new golden age, with dozens of races ascending together, learning from each other. The choice hadn't been made yet. The future was still unwritten, but the potential was there, shining bright in every possible timeline. Ambassador Thelnora saw herself in those visions. In some futures, she died giving the order to destroy the humans. In others, she became humanity's greatest ally, helping them navigate the dangers of transcendence. She saw her own children and grandchildren, generations into the future, living in a galaxy transformed by the choice she made today. The vision faded. Thelnora found herself back on her bridge, shaking. Around her, her crew looked equally stunned. Some were crying. Others stood frozen, in shock. "Ambassador," her tactical officer said quietly. "Orders?" Thelnora looked at the Vryn structure on her screen. Inside that ancient place, a human baby had just shown her the truth. Not through force, not through threats, but through simple honesty. Here is what we might become. Here are all the possibilities. Choose. She activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, stand down. Cease fire, immediately. The command rippled through the Council fleet. Slowly, weapons powered down. The targeting locks disengaged. The massive war machine stopped, held in check by a single moment of understanding. On the Time's Eternal Dawn asterisk, Captain Sung let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. They're backing off. They're actually backing off. In the archive chamber, Day finally closed his eyes and slept. The effort of reaching so many minds at once had exhausted even his growing power. Yuna held him, tears running down her face. Jin wrapped his arms around both of them, and Hana saw that his eyes had changed too. Gold flecks sparkled in his irises. The transformation was spreading, person to person, family to family. It couldn't be stopped now. But maybe, just maybe, it didn't need to be. A communication request came through. Ambassador Thelnora's face appeared on the screen, and for the first time, she looked uncertain. Vulnerable. "Captain Sung," she said carefully, "I believe we need to talk." "Yes," the captain agreed. "I believe we do." The Vryn archive pulsed with soft light, and new knowledge flowed into the minds of everyone present. Instructions on how to guide the transformation safely. Warnings about the dangers ahead. Though, underground. And most importantly, the ethics and philosophy that the Vryn had developed over millions of years before their ascension. Hana looked down at her scanner. Across human space, children were waking up with dragon eyes. The cascade had truly begun. There was no going back to the old normal, but there was hope. Real hope. Not just wishes. They had 48 hours before, trying to survive. Now, they had a chance to build something new. The galaxy learned the truth within 6 hours. Ambassador Thelnora broke the Council's order of silence herself, broadcasting the full story across every communication channel. The human baby with dragon eyes, the awakening transformation, the choice between fear and hope. The Council's inner chamber erupted in chaos. Some species called for Thelnora's arrest, demanding she be tried for treason. Others stood with her, saying the old ways of suppressing potential threats had failed. The debate shook the foundations of galactic government, but the debate didn't matter anymore. While the council argued, humanity was changing. On Earth, in hospitals and homes across the planet, babies were born with eyes that shifted colors. Children who had been normal the day before woke up with vertical pupils and an understanding of physics that shouldn't exist in young minds. Parents called doctors, scientists, governments, anyone who might have answers. Fear spread like wildfire. The same thing happened on Mars, on the colony ships, on every human settlement from Mercury to the Oort cloud. Millions of transformations, all at once. Some happened quickly, others took days, but the pattern was clear. Humanity was evolving into something new, and nothing could stop it. Dr. Hana Kwan found herself at the center of everything. She became the voice of the transformation, speaking to frightened parents through broadcasts, explaining what she had learned from the Vrin archive. Yes, their children were changing. No, it wasn't a disease or a curse. It was a gift, one planted in human DNA 200,000 years ago, finally blooming. "We're not losing our humanity," she said in one broadcast that reached 3 billion people. "We're becoming more of what we always could be. But we have to choose wisely. We have to learn control, ethics, and responsibility. Power without wisdom is just destruction." Yuna and Jin stayed in the Vrin structure with Day, learning everything they could from the ancient archive. The knowledge flowed into them day by day, teaching them how to guide others through the transformation. They weren't the only ones. Other humans came to the remnant zone, drawn by instinct or purpose, seeking the same knowledge. A community formed around the ancient city. Scientists, parents, children with dragon eyes, all working together to understand what they were becoming. They called themselves the Awakened, and their numbers grew every day. Captain Sung negotiated with the Galactic Council, trying to prevent war. It was delicate work. Half the council wanted to destroy humanity before the transformation completed. The other half wanted to study the process, maybe even join it themselves. The council had never been so divided. Ambassador Thelnora became humanity's unlikely ally. She spoke passionately in the council chambers, arguing that destroying the humans would solve nothing. The transformation was too widespread now. Trying to kill all humans would require genocide on a scale the galaxy had never seen. And even if they succeeded, what would it solve? The Vrin had modified other species too. Humanity might not be the last. "We face a choice," Thelnora said to the assembled council representatives. "We can try to stop this through violence and fail, destroying ourselves in the process. Or we can adapt, learn, even help, if the humans will accept our help." The debate raged for weeks. During that time, more children awakened. The transformation accelerated, spreading through human populations like a wave of evolution moving faster than natural selection ever could. There were problems. Hana had warned that there would be. Some humans couldn't handle the change. Their minds broke under the weight of new abilities they didn't understand. Others used their growing powers recklessly, causing accidents. A teenager in Beijing accidentally created a gravity well that collapsed 3 buildings. A child in New Sydney set fire to a forest with a thought. But for every disaster, there were 100 successes. Children learning to heal injuries with a touch. Scientists making breakthroughs that would have taken decades in a matter of hours. Engineers designing ships that could fold space like paper. The potential was staggering. Day remained the most advanced. At 3 months old, he had already surpassed what most humans would achieve in years of transformation. He could communicate without words, projecting thoughts and images directly into minds. He could manipulate matter on a molecular level. He could see into other dimensions, perceiving realities beyond normal space. But he was still a baby. He cried when hungry. He needed to be changed and held. He smiled at his parents and grabbed at their fingers with tiny hands. The cosmic power and infant innocence existed side by side, reminding everyone that transcendence didn't mean losing your humanity. 5 months after Day's birth, the Galactic Council made its decision. They would not attempt to stop humanity's transformation. Instead, they would establish the Ascension Protocols, a framework for managing the transition and preventing abuse of transcendent abilities. Humans would have representatives on the Council for the first time. Trade and cultural exchange would continue. But humans would also accept observers, teachers from other species, who would help guide the younger awakened ones. It wasn't perfect. Many Council species remained deeply suspicious of humans. Some refused to interact with them at all, establishing quarantine zones around their territories. A few attempted to develop their own transformation programs, trying to force evolution in their own species. Those experiments ended badly, but the galaxy adapted. Slowly, cautiously, the major powers learned to live with the idea of transcendent humans. Some even found it gave them hope. If humans could change, maybe they could too someday. A year after Day's birth, Hana stood in the Vreen archive and recorded her final log entry for the medical database. Around her, a dozen human children played under the watchful eyes of their parents. All of them had dragon eyes. All of them were learning to control their abilities with the help of the Vryn teachings. "We stand at the beginning of something incredible and terrifying," Hana said into the recorder. "Humanity is changing faster than any species in recorded galactic history. We don't know where this path leads. We don't know what will become when the transformation is complete." She paused, watching young Day toddle across the floor on unsteady legs. He was walking early, of course. Everything about him happened early. His eyes were a steady golden color today, warm and bright. He saw her watching and gave her a gap-toothed baby smile. "But I've seen enough to know we have a choice in what we become," Hana continued. "The Vryn left us instructions. Yes. They gave us power. Yes. But they also gave us free will. We can become conquerors or guardians, monsters or teachers. The future isn't written in our DNA. It's written in the choices we make every day." She stopped the recording and knelt down as Day walked to her, his small arms outstretched. She picked him up, and he giggled, a sound of pure joy. His dragon eyes sparkled with starlight. Outside the Vryn structure, the Time's eternal dawn times floated peacefully. New ships had joined it. A growing fleet of human vessels that served as a bridge between Earth and the remnant zone. Humans and Council species worked together on some of those ships, an impossible sight a year ago. Jin found them in the archive, Yuna walking beside him. Both of them had fully transformed now, their eyes matching their son's. They could bend reality with a thought. But mostly they used their abilities for simple things. Healing sick crew members, helping with ship repairs, teaching the newly awakened. "The Earth delegation is here," Jin said. "They want to see Day." Earth's government had finally accepted the transformation after months of denial. They sent representatives to learn from the first awakened, to bring knowledge back home. It was a start. Hana handed Day to his mother. "Go on. Show them there's nothing to fear." 44. End quote. Yuna held her son close, feeling his warmth, his steady heartbeat. Day looked up at her with those ancient, knowing eyes and laughed. In that laugh, Hana heard hope. The galaxy was changing, and it was terrifying. But maybe change was what they all needed. The Earth delegates entered the chamber, nervous and uncertain. They saw the Vryn technology, the glowing crystal pillar, the holographic images of possible futures, and they saw Day, a year-old child with dragon eyes, who watched them with calm curiosity. "This is humanity's future," Hana told them. "It's already happening. You can't stop it, but you can help guide it. You can choose to be part of something greater than fear." The delegates stood silent for a long moment. Then one of them, an older woman who had been a senator, stepped forward. "Teach us," she said simply. And so they did. 5 years passed. The transformation continued. Slower now, but steady. Not every human awakened the dragon eyes. Some remained unchanged, living normal lives. But enough had transformed that humanity as a species had fundamentally shifted. The first generation of awakened children grew into their powers with the guidance of the Vryn archive and teachers like Yuna and Jin. They learned to use their abilities responsibly, to see their power as a tool for building rather than dominating. There were still accidents, still problems, but fewer each year. The Galactic Council reformed itself, accepting that the old order was gone. New species applied for transcendence programs, wanting to follow humanity's path. Most were rejected. The transformation couldn't be forced. It had to happen naturally, and only a few species had the genetic templates for it. Day, now 5 years old, played with other awakened children on a new colony world at the edge of the remnant zone. The planet had no name yet, just coordinates. The children called it Dragon's Rest. Their eyes glowed in the twilight, gold and violet and crimson, as they chased each other through fields of alien grass. Hana watched them from a distance, now permanently assigned as the chief researcher for humanity's transformation. She had aged in these 5 years, her hair showing gray, but her eyes sparkled with the same golden light as the children she studied. She had awakened too, finally. The transformation didn't skip her after all. "Are you worried about them?" Captain Sung asked, standing beside her. He was older now, thinking about retirement, but he still commanded respect among both humans and council species. "Every day," Hana admitted. "They have so much power. What if they use it wrong? What if we're creating the very monsters the council feared?" Sung watched as Day lifted a rock with his mind, showing it to a younger child who squealed with delight. "But they're also still children. They laugh and play and cry. They're not gods. They're just more. Is that enough?" Hana asked quietly. "It has to be," Sung replied. "Because this is what we are now. This is what we chose to become." Day looked up from his play, his dragon eyes finding Hana across the field. He smiled and waved. A simple gesture from a child who could reshape reality if he wanted to. But he didn't want to. He just wanted to play with his friends. Hana waved back and felt something loosen in her chest. Fear, maybe, or doubt. The future was uncertain. Yes, the path ahead was dangerous. Absolutely. But standing here, watching these children who carried the potential for cosmic power while still being wonderfully, perfectly human, she felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. Real, genuine hope. The galaxy would learn to live with humanity's transformation. Or it wouldn't, and there would be conflict ahead. But either way, the silence had been broken. The truth was known, and humanity had chosen to face its destiny with open eyes, dragon eyes, glowing with the promise of what might be.